Insomniac Spider-Man. Despite what you think of big PlayStation and their recent decisions that are dumb, Insomniac have had a pretty stellar track record when it comes to making their games. Thanks to them, we have such classics as Spyro the Dragon and Ratchet & Clank. And though it wasn't too successful over in Xbox's territory, they also dropped Sunset Overdrive, which I absolutely loved. And thinking about it, that game is probably the reason Marvel trusted them with the Spider IP. I mean, you can kind of see the building blocks in Sunset Overdrive that get carried over to Spider-Man. It's subtle, but they are there. Now, for the longest time, the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man was flopping in the game industry with critical failure after critical failure.
Help! Please! Someone! I'm going to die!
Which over the recent years is a drastic contrast to Batman. The Arkham games were popping off, and it shows that it wasn't because they were making a comic book hero. Now that works in the game industry. It was just that people were making bad Spider-Man games. The only good one I can remember was Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 2 back in 2004, by Treyarch of all people. This was the first time a Spider-Man game really gave you the feel of swinging around New York City.
New York City.
And though it was actually a movie tie-in game to the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man of the same name, they actually added a lot of new content and went off on their own when coming up with the story, which honestly gives it the title of one of the best movie tie-in video games, if not the best. Now, some people have told me that Shattered Dimensions is actually a pretty good Spider-Man game as well, and I haven't actually played that, so I'm unsure on that one. Maybe it could be a possible video down the line. Let me know in the comments if you would like to see me cover that game. But Marvel's Spider-Man game is some next level stuff. The immersion is insane, and the voice acting. My god, Yuri Lowenthal does such a fantastic job playing Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I absolutely love his performance in this game, and I might be a little bit biased. I've always loved his voice. Since I was a kid watching the dub of Naruto, and hearing him play Sasuke Uchiha is some good stuff. Yes, I watch Naruto dub, don't hate me. And you can actually hear a bit of that Sasuke coming out in this game, in the more emotional takes for Peter.
I hate that you're making me do this! We were going to change the world! Over and over and over and over again! And let me cut you down already!
But they didn't just stop at some top talent for the voice acting. They got Joe Pisano to compose the music. Now, you might know who he is, but he done the musical score for the Daredevil Netflix show. Honestly, you can see the Marvel money is really paying off for this title. Now guys, you know me, I am a massive Batman fan, but I've got to be honest, I only truly got into the Batman franchise with the animated series when that was airing on TV. So you could say I'm a filthy casual. But Spider-Man is a different story. I loved reading the comics for Spider-Man back in the day, and maybe it was because at that age, the brighter color scheme just did something for my underdeveloped brain, but I was a solid Spider-Man fanboy. So I have been waiting very patiently for Peter to come back to the game industry in a title that was not a movie tie-in, trash bag experience. And just like I did with the entire Arkham series, I want to look back at this game, warts and all, and see maybe if it was just heavily bloated and us Spider-Man fans just would take anything at this point that had Big Red in it. Or was the Marvel Spider-Man game in fact really that good and worth the praise it got? Despite what you think of the more lackluster Spider-Man 2 or the DLC that got boxed up and charged full RRP because Sony wanted something on their new console, we're going to dive into the story of the first game that started it all and see for ourselves if it was actually that good. Now, before we dive into the story, as always, guys, if you could drop a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It really does go a long way to help support me, and maybe hopefully break that 10k subs. That would be pretty huge. I think even I'll be swinging through the rooftops if we hit that big number. Anyway, onto the story. Spider-Man opens up with Peter in his apartment, and right out the gate you can tell this game is a love letter to the franchise. There is Easter eggs to their Easter eggs and references all over the place. So much so that I will not be able to cover 10% of them because there is just so many. Now there is a little negative I want to get out of the way right out the gate. I am playing the remastered version of Marvel's Spider-Man that came out only 2 years after the original. Jesus Christ, this is a problem. I like the game, but this is not okay. 2 years? I thought this was Insomniac, not Naughty Dog. As well as updating an already stellar looking game and upping the graphics probably just like 1%. The changes were not that much. But they did completely change Peter Parker's model, and I am not the biggest fan of this change. The original Peter in the first version of this game, I think, was the perfect 24-year-old Peter. He looked like someone who had been doing this superhero stuff for around 8 years. He looks a little tired, a little stressed out. Also, his face, I don't know if this is just me, kind of looks like a meld between Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, though I could be just seeing what I want to see. So apparently they needed to change this model to match up with Yuri Lowenthal's performance better, as the motion capture was a bit of a nightmare with the original model. Now that's fine, but the new model ironically looks like a far younger Peter Parker. Like, we're talking early grad student, start of the career, and obviously a lot more Tom Holland-esque. I don't want to spend too much time on this. It's been discussed and debated for a long time. It's not a massive deal breaker, and you do get used to it. I just wanted to say I preferred the original Peter model. Also, side note, while I was looking at footage to compare these two models, I noticed the lighting was also redone in some sections for the remaster. And is it just me, or does it look far worse? Like, look at these shots back to back. Something ain't right here. Anyway, Peter gets a call about a raid on Wilson Fisk, so he quickly grabs some toast, lightly seasoned with some web, gross, and suits up, and we get a fantastic song by the Warbly Jets. Not gonna lie, when this game came out, I had this song on repeat for months. It's such a banger, though I probably can't play it because YouTube will hurt me. So we get an awesome transition from cutscene to gameplay, and get used to it. The game does this a lot, and it is amazing. And we're already swinging through the city, and the swinging is so good. It is perfect. I read around that Insomniac built the swinging from the ground up, and it was the main focus at the start of development. And it really does show this truly feels like what it would be like to be Spider-Man in New York City. Now, whether you don't care that the web's attached to the buildings or God's asshole, I think it's a change for the better, and it makes it feel more skillful to get decent speed in the city. As a new player, it's pretty quick to get a grasp on the web swinging, but if you want to take it to a new level and build up some momentum and do some skill-based tricks and maneuvers, it can be kind of difficult, and you have to pay attention a lot. But thankfully, it is super rewarding, and it's one of the few games, though, has pretty decent fast travel points. I don't fast travel at all, even if it means I miss out on some awesome loading screens. It's just fun to zip around the city. I would say my only issue is the momentum, though most of the time is absolutely flawless, it can be a bit funky from time to time. You'd lose a lot of speed you've generated for kind of unknown reasons. And that could be kind of annoying, but they are few and far between, and it doesn't really impact the web swinging 90% of the time. Anyway, we catch up with Yuri's helicopter and we get to Fisk's building and we take out a few goons. The game really doesn't hold back in this opening segment. It literally gives you everything you need to know about being Spider-Man right out of the gate. Now the combat, let's be honest, it's the free flow combat from Batman Arkham games. Most fights will have you up against several different enemies and they will take turns trying to check your privilege. Thankfully this time, the Spidey sense thing that didn't really make much sense in the Arkham games does here because it's, I mean, he's Spider-Man, it's his thing. As soon as you see Peter's head start twinkling, that's your sign you need to dodge or counterattack. You also get a plethora, is that how you say that word, of gadgets to use in these fights. And though you don't really need to use too many of these, it will make it feel less one note. As at the start, before you get the gadgets, most of your gameplay will be air combos because that's just how Spidey likes to do shit. Unfortunately, you can't do anything too crazy like in Spider-Man 2 where you could just swing a mob until they projectile vomit. And the ragdolls are not as good, even compared to the Batman Arkham games, but you do get some pretty funny situations. And you can still throw mobs off buildings.
Oh what, it's not fun getting beat up? We'll sit with that for a while.
Yeah, I don't care what Peter says, that guy is dead. So Spider-Man teams up with the NYPD to complete a raid on Wilson Fisk. Unfortunately, just before confronting him, it seems like a few of the squad guys are on his payroll and we get betrayed. After dealing with that, we are face to face with Fisk himself, and my god, this is where the game really shines to me. I absolutely love the writing in Spider-Man. Each character really feels like they have been crafted from their origins. I know some people had a bit of an issue with the cringy Spider-Man dialogue. I actually loved every second of it, and it fits his character. People miss the mark that this is how Spider-Man is. He uses his wit, and let's be honest, kind of bad humor to irritate and put the bad guys into a false sense of security. It's a pretty good tactic, and though it's most likely just a weird tick of Peter's, it works.
But your foolishness ends now.
You do know I can still see you, right?
80 years of this insolence.
Oh, for me? You shouldn't have.
The fight with Fisk is pretty good too. We have to avoid the turrets while a bunch of mobs gang up on us, as well as Wilson Fisk, who honestly hits pretty goddamn hard. He is ripped. Again, I've got to say, this is the tutorial. This is doing a stellar job. Unfortunately, though, there is a negative. You see, with Marvel's Spider-Man, there is a reliance on the QuickTime events. These are littered throughout the game, honestly a bit too much, and it feels like it really takes you out of intense situations rather than improves immersion like it was supposed to do back in, what, Resident Evil 4? Is that when QuickTime events basically got made? Whether it's beating up a boss or stopping a car or just to dodge some random attack, it is very obnoxious. Now, thankfully, they did patch in a setting so you could remove the QuickTime events from the game so you don't have to worry. I would say this is a W, but it doesn't change the cinematics at all or even speeds them up. So there'll be situations where Spider-Man looks like he's waiting for some input while you just awkwardly watch him. So we take out Wilson Fisk and we get a nice little nod to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films.
So, should we kiss now?
Now Fisk isn't best pleased and tells Spider-Man that him being taken off the board is just going to make a massive power play in the city, and other crime organizations that he had in order will start making moves. Spidey shrugs this off, whatever. See you later, Willie. Now we get a bit of free time here. We can swing around the city and honestly it looks absolutely gorgeous. I remember this game still looking this good back on the PS4 hardware, and I have to say it's probably the best looking playground in any video game, at least from the recent years. Though it's going for a realistic New York City, it's got quite a few nods to the Marvel Universe. I've said this before in comic book games, but the world is as much of a main character as Spider-Man or Batman, and it does show in this game. But while you're swinging around the city, there are side objectives that sprinkle throughout the world as you progress the story. Now, some of these are pretty solid, like the Spider Impersonator side quest, or Imper-Spider? No? Sorry. Or one when you have to foil a bank job before it even happens by following a thug around the city and collecting evidence before it happens. Now I like this because you're crawling around windows taking pictures of what they're planning. It's great, and also it's a massive nod to GTA 4. If the full tracksuit wasn't a giveaway, the two characters that you foil are actually named Nico and Roman. I didn't catch that the first time I played this game. It's pretty cool. Unfortunately, some of the side quests are a little dull though. Lost students from the uni is one I absolutely hate because all you have is a photo to find them in the whole of New York City, and you have to do this like 4 times. It's pretty dull. And the Screwball stuff, my god, I absolutely hate Screwball. Somehow this character is even worse when she's being voiced. Though I will give her credit, she does get numbers. Maybe I need to change up my content creator game.
Hey, Spidey, you know what blows? Half the city if you don't find all the bombs. Ha ha! Hey, Spidey, you know what blows? Half the city if you don't find... Shut up!
Now speaking of annoying missions, Black Cat kind of sort of makes an appearance in the base game in one of the side missions, but it just has Peter looking for a plushie collection throughout New York City. It doesn't really go anywhere, and the cat herself does not make an in-person appearance. This does have a payoff in the DLC, but that took months to release after the launch of base game. So if you played at that time, it's really a nothing burger mission, but the silver lining is you do get a pretty dope looking suit at the end of it. Now there is several other side quests. There are so many that I can't really mention them all, but let's just say there's a lot to do in New York City and you're going to want to do it all. But I will shout out one more, the one that I had the most fun with. It's an old story about Tombstone. Now this is mechanically the perfect side quest to me. He has a insanely minor plot point in the main story, and then he becomes an issue and branches off into a side mission quest line. That's how you do side content. Force me to acknowledge it in the main plot and then leave me to make the decision to go deal with it. I felt like it was something that had to be done, so it became a priority. I love that stuff. This is how you implement additional villains you don't want to take away from the spotlight in a comic book hero video game. You hear me, Arkham City? Though his boss fight is pretty fun, it could be a little buggy.
Man, before I try to counter...
The reward for doing these side missions usually ends up being experience and new spider suits for Spider-Man, and they are fantastic. I spent most of the game rocking the Miguel suit. Why, you might ask? Because the ladies love it.
Piece by piece.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty sure this suit is the reason MJ gets back with Peter in the story. Or you could be a funny haha skeleton. There's literally so many outfits. There'll be one that you like. Anyway, back to the story. Peter needs to eat, so we head to his day job, working with Doctor Octopus, as this is a few years after Pete's career at the Daily Bugle. Now, I really like how these two interact. Obviously, 98% of the players know how this relationship's gonna pan out, but the game somehow, and I don't understand how, makes you shocked and disappointed in Otto when it does happen. But we'll get to that in a bit. For now, we're just trying to create a new prosthetic for people in need, but it isn't going too well. After the failed experiment, Pete uses the time here to create a new suit, the White Spider suit, and I like it. I think it's pretty good.
Excuse me, late for work.
There's a bit of backlash around this suit. Some people didn't like it in the announcement and gameplay trailers. I honestly like the more skeleton-esque look with the white trims. I think it fits Spidey well, and it's one of the best suits. Not quite the webbed suit from Sam Raimi's era, but it's good. Damn, I feel like I have been way too positive so far in this video, so we need a bit of a palate cleanser. MJ. Ugh. So after Pete does his new suit and swings around for a bit, Mary Jane decides to investigate Fisk's art collection because she is now a reporter for the Bugle. And this is one of the many mandatory stealth sections in Spider-Man. These are so dull and boring, the community quickly modded the game to remove them. I think this is one of the most downloaded mods for Spider-Man, next to the Peter Griffin mod. Now, I get they wanted to give MJ more of a substantial role in the series rather than the damsel in distress for Spidey to rescue, and this is actually one of the reasons why they broke up in the game. She hated it so much. But man, I wish they just did what they did with the QuickTime events, implemented a skip section setting, because these are so boring and honestly not much happens. It's a drastic contrast to the Spider-Man gameplay. If I had to compare it to something, it's like speeding down a motorway going like the full miles per hour you can, enjoying that adrenaline rush, getting to where you need to go really quickly, and then you hit horrible rush hour traffic and you're just stationary. It's not a good feeling. So MJ finds out about a project called Devil's Breath, and a bunch of mask-wearing thugs with honestly immaculate taste in neckwear apparel attack her. Peter gets her just in time, defeats them, while taking one of the masks to Martin Lee, who's running the Feast Center for the homeless and people in need in New York City, alongside Best Aunt May. Martin tells us that this mask's a little bit cringe, but he seems a bit sus about it.
It could be connected to dangerous people. Mary Jane might want to find a different story.
Do you think she's in trouble?
I don't know. Why take the risk?
I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. After that, we head back to working with Otto. Once we start making some strides with the tech, Norman Osborn decides to just invite himself in, looking like, honestly, Dr. Cox from Scrubs, right? Anyone else getting that vibe? So Osborn shuts down the project. Otto isn't too happy about this, and I'm sure there will be no repercussions from this. We head back to the city and explore some more of Fisk's safe houses, and we meet Officer Jefferson, who helps Spidey save a train full of civilians. He gets a medal at the Osborn rally the next day. It's here where we get introduced to Miles Morales, Jefferson's son, and we get more stealth sections. No, Miles, not you too. You were the chosen one. Miles has to stealth around the city thanks to Silver Sable's private army, who have taken over New York City to protect Norman Osborn while he runs for office.
Whoa!
Just before the rally starts though, Spider-Man has to stop a fight between Fisk's men and the new demons in the city. This section is probably the best part of the entire game and looks probably a little bit familiar, right? This is the first gameplay preview we saw of Marvel's Spider-Man before launch, which has Spider-Man jumping between two construction towers trying to save Fisk's men from the demons. It's a great section, and the transitions from gameplay to cinematic scenes, mwah, flawless.
that just happen? Yeah.
I'm getting reports of a helicopter with a wrecking ball.
Yeah, things with the demons got complicated. Sit tight, Yuri. I got this.
I honestly wished every mission in this game was like this. It's probably asking too much. It's a solid title regardless, but this is some good food. So after that section and several cigarettes, we stop whatever the plan was here for the demons and we head to the rally. Just before Jefferson is awarded this medal, the demons send a bomber in to take out Osborn. And honestly, they do a pretty terrible job here.
Get down!
Oh, hi Martin Lee. Peter gets knocked out and it's up to Miles to go look for his father in another stealth section. Though unlike me, Miles actually finds his father. So Martin Lee has decided to become a bad guy and take the moniker of Mr. Negative. Dude, it sounds like one of the less successful Mr. Men. So Martin Lee has beef with Norman Osborn, as back in the day, Norman and Octavius did some experiments on a pregnant woman and gave her child negative powers. Wouldn't that just mean he's got no powers? Oh my god, it's so stupid. Unfortunately, in the process, the baby was born, but it killed the mother and father at birth. This plot point gets brought up quite a bit. As you can see, between him, Peter, MJ, and Octavius, the plot can honestly be boiled down to everybody just hates Norman, as he seems like the catalyst for pretty much all of the villains' origins. Alright, so Martin Lee starts tracking down random scientists, and one of them is at a Halloween party at the university. This section is pretty fun, though I've gotta be honest, dressing up as the villains seems really bad taste, right? I mean, these are real people in their world who kill thousands of New Yorkers every year. Something in my brain makes me think that's not okay. But we do get yet another nod to the Spider-Man 2 game with someone in a Mysterio costume running off into a house of mirrors. It's a subtle nod, but it did tickle my nostalgic brain. So Martin's plan is to release this devil's breath in the city and point and blame Norman for doing it. Not really too sure how that's going to work, because everyone can see that it's actually Martin Lee doing this, not Norman, because Norman actually just never shows up. But sure, whatever Martin, I like your tie, I respect you. Martin Lee's plan is to do this at Grand Central Station. MJ and Peter team up and stop this from happening, and we get what I assume is a reference back to the Shocker section in Spider-Man 2. Even though it's Lee, it does somewhat feel nostalgic, right? I feel like this whole section is a reference. Or I might be reaching, I'm not too sure. During this chase, we get a little nod to the Spider-Man 2 movie this time, not the game, with Pete trying to stop a train, just like he did in the movie.
That totally worked last time.
After a pretty stellar section, we catch up to Lee and take him out. Alright, with Martin Lee off the board, I guess we'll go back to work. We head back to the lab just in time to see Otto start looking a little familiar. It seems Otto has made some nanotech that has created what I assume is a Japanese adult cartoon enjoyer's wet dream, but the tech is messing with Otto's brain, making him have mood swings.
The neural web isn't isolating your motor neurons. It could be affecting other parts of your brain, your inhibitions, your mood. I just think we need some more tests.
We've got enough tests! For the first time in my life, I don't feel like a failure.
This is thanks to his progressive ALS. The nanobots are triggering this and kind of making him go a bit cray-cray. Peter asks politely for him to stop doing this, and he agrees that he'll stop using the tech until they can find a workaround for it. Until Otto just instantly nope JKs that, because he's a little bit upset with Norman Osborn.
Live Grand Central Terminal, where Mayor Osborn is about to address the media.
Martin Lee is now behind bars. When I make a promise to this city, I keep it. The people of New York will soon make a decision that could change the course of this city forever. So when you're casting your vote, remember what I've done. We are all safer now than we have ever been.
Liar!
Alright, so before we deal with that nonsense, there's a full-on prisoner escape happening at the raft, which Spidey needs to quickly head over and deal with. So where the first half of this game so far was kind of just dealing with Martin Lee and the demons, the second half is all about the Sinister Six. We have Martin Lee, we have Electro, we have Vulture, we have Rhino, and we have Scorpion. Now this is great fighting these guys all back to back. It's pretty awesome. Things aren't going too well, and especially when newcomer Doctor Octopus joins the fray.
first and final warning.
Come on, man. We asked you to do one thing. Don't play with the funny tentacles. Jesus Christ, Otto. Unfortunately, this is just too much for Spider-Man to deal with, and he's taken out by the Sinister Six.
Stay out of our way.
Betrayal.
Octavius then releases the Devil's Breath in the city. Oh man, you should have put the mask on before you did this, my guy. Come on, you're a scientist, for God's sake. You are 100% infected now. But no, somehow he doesn't get infected, but most of the city does. And with all the escaped convicts from the raft, New York is looking, well, like the real life New York, actually. So with the city going to hell, we need to take out the Sinister Six. And these boss fights are pretty fun, actually. It has Spidey mainly going 2v1 against Scorpion, Rhino, and Vulture and Electro. The dialogue is pretty great. Scorpion and Rhino just bicker to each other and kind of just foil themselves. I feel like if Doctor Octopus was really that smart, he would have known that putting these two together was a bad idea. I also love the scene of Pete telling the joke to Vulture and he just does not get it, but Electro does. It's subtle, but again, I love the dialogue in this game. It's great.
No, Adrian, it's me, Spider-Man.
What are you babbling about?
Nobody ever gets my jokes. Spider-Man! I must break you. You got it! You got my joke! I'm so happy I can almost stop fighting. Almost.
Scorpion also gets a dream segment when he poisons Spider-Man, and there was a really short section and not really much gets done. It's pretty cool. It gave me flashbacks to the Scarecrow sections in the Arkham games. MJ decides to break into Norman Osborn's penthouse in search of a cure to the Devil's Breath, as she thinks he might have one in another stealth section. God, I hate these. Now, this whole time, Pete and gang assumed that Harry Osborn was away visiting Europe. Don't blame him, we have good fish and chips. But he was actually terminally ill, just like his mother was when she died. So going to Europe was just a code for being stuck in a stasis pod while Norman looked for a cure. And that's what Devil Breath was supposed to be, a cure for terminal illnesses, as we find out in this PowerPoint presentation. I have to believe this is how our parliaments discussed the Big C a few years back, right? Jesus. Unfortunately, the cure isn't complete yet. It does more harm than good at the moment. While searching for the cure, we do get a few nods to the Green Goblin here with the pumpkin bombs and the glider, as well as the mask to control it. We figure out there's a cure and escape, but not before a sus spider escapes the lab and gets awfully close to MJ. Looks like you got some competition here, Pete. We find out that Dr. Lee's got the cure, so we head after him, and for the third time, we take him out. But just before we can leave with it, Otto decides to bitch slap Spidey out and steals Osborn and the cure.
Useless.
That look on your face. You can't imagine how satisfying it is. Ready for your final act?
While this is happening, the spider MJ accidentally adopted at Osborn's secret lab gets onto Miles and takes a bite. I wonder if this is significant in any way. Peter, with really no other options here, creates a new spider suit and heads off to face off against Octavius. And this, my friends, is a stellar boss fight. After quickly saving Osborn, who, honestly, almost trolls himself into a near death.
Now, the truth.
The truth. Okay. The truth is, you were only ever worth a damn when you worked for me! The truth is, you could never accept that I'm better than you! You're a failure, Otto! And you always will be!
Alright, so the stakes are high, but I want to quickly talk about something that really annoys me with the plot in this game. Now, I get Octavius hates Osborn, and he's kind of getting desperate with his plans due to the ticking clock of his ALS. But at this point, it's kind of common knowledge that Osborn was trying to create a cure with the Devil's Breath that would actually help Otto in the long run if it was perfected. What I don't get is why Otto doesn't just play nice and work with Osborn to complete it. Otto would be cured, hopefully, of his ALS, and Osborn would get his son back. Surely this would squash any beef between these two and save so many lives in the process. And it's not just those two that haven't come to this realization. Why didn't Peter mention this at any point? It just seems bizarre to me. Anyone else think that while they were playing the game? Or am I just grasping at straws here? Now we're face to face against Octavius, and this set piece alone with the rain and the destroyed city skyline in the background is so good. Both characters take a few hits and Otto reveals that he knew Peter was Spider-Man the entire time.
Such a disappointment. Parker. You knew? I tried to warn you, Peter, but you didn't listen. You knew?
I mean, come on, Pete. Honestly, you were making the suit in front of him. It was a bit of a giveaway. But this section is gut-wrenching for Pete. Honestly, he no longer cares about the city, and even to an extent, Aunt May being sick from the Devil's Breath. He is seeing pure red and hates the fact that Otto knew he was Spider-Man the entire time, but still nearly killed him several times. And he won't stop this crazy crusade against Osborn. Peter looked up to this guy. He was like a father to him. And every single attribute that he loved about this man has slowly been stripped away by his need for revenge. And the acting is phenomenal.
I hate that you're making me do this! We were going to change the world!
Peter, I saw you as a son. I should have known you'd turn on me, just like all the others.
Turn. I've worshipped you. Your mind, your conscience, wanting to help others. The way you never gave up.
That's because men like us have a duty, a responsibility, to use our talents in the service of others. Even if they don't appreciate it, we have to do what's best for those beneath us, whether they understand it or not.
No, you're wrong! You are everything I wanted to be! You just threw it away!
Like I said at the start, we all knew the game was coming to this point. Anyone with any basic Spider-Man knowledge knew Otto was going to become the bad guy. But this game still, I don't know how, makes you feel betrayed, just like Peter. It's stellar game design and absolutely pure cinema to experience. Right at the end, Octavius even has the audacity to try and beg to Peter's kind nature to, you know, help a brother out.
Yes, of course. You're right, Peter. Oh, I see that now. The neural interface affected my mind. But I can fix it. We can fix it together. If you'll help me.
Do everything I can. I'll make sure you get the best help.
No! If they put me away, they'll take my arms! I'll be trapped in this useless body! Please, Peter. That wasn't me. You said you'd never abandon me. You promised. Remember? And of course, You rest easy, knowing your secret is safe with me.
You do what you think is best, Doc. It's all any of us can.
Peter?
Even when it hurts like hell.
Peter, where are you going? Peter? Peter!
But even the world's most forgiving superhero knows that this shit is cap and walks away. My god, such a good section. But as you know with stories, when you get a big trauma dump of emotions, you need some levity, right? No, fuck you, Aunt May is dying. It almost comes across cruel. After defeating Otto, Pete has to make a choice to save Aunt May with the cure, but thousands will die due to the devil's breath, or he has to sacrifice May, the only family he has left in the city, so the cure can be used to save thousands. My god, this poor guy. This lad has lost a father and mother for a second time. Pure trauma. Now, I've played this game a couple of times and even I was getting teary-eyed at this point. Before she passes away though, she asks to look at her nephew one last time, revealing that she also knew Pete was Spider-Man.
You're gonna be okay, ma'am. I've got the cure right here.
Take off your mask. I want to see my nephew.
You knew?
I've known for a while.
I never wanted you to worry.
I did. And I am so proud of you. And Ben would be too. All the people you've saved.
I don't know what to do.
Yes, you do.
Look, man, I know it's a bad time, but why do you even bother wearing the mask at this point? So May dies and the city is saved, and it turns out Pete isn't alone in this fight as Miles shows off some changes with his body.
I kinda gotta talk to you about something I can't tell my mom about.
What's up?
Well, weird things have been going on. Like physically.
Oh. Well, you know, you're at that age where your body starts to change. And so you may be noticing some areas,
No.
for example.
Not that. I think it's better that I just I show you.
No.
It's pretty weird, right?
Not that weird.
And that's the base game of Marvel's Spider-Man, a true return to form Spidey game. This did for the franchise what Batman Arkham Asylum did for Batman. It's incredible, and it's a reason why it's now one of Sony's most profitable franchises. I said it before, but all it takes is making a game for fans, for gamers, for people who are gonna play this content. And despite, again, what you think about Big Sony and some questionable things they do with the series going forward, it's a great time. And that stuff is a topic for another video as we're not done just yet. Marvel's Spider-Man had 3 pieces of DLC that got dropped a few months after launch, which were used to tie off a few loose ends in the main plot, and also make a few things in the base plot make some sense. The first of these is called The Heist, featuring our favorite black feline, Black Cat. The heist begins with Spidey investigating a museum that the Maggia crime family are targeting. After taking them out, Black Cat appears and steals a flash drive. Hammerhead, this dude with a forehead ratio that would rival Asmongold, has hired her to steal these drives as they collectively reveal some insane gang money for the Maggia, as he wants to take over the crime organization. Black Cat tells Pete after a citywide chase that, again, could be reaching here, but I feel like this is a reference to Spider-Man 2, that the reason she is doing this is because Hammerhead has captured her son. Spider-Man does some quick maths in his head and starts to worry. Now I hate this section, as Black Cat is purposely leading Spidey on, making him think he's the baby daddy, but never actually confirming it even when he pushes for it. But he doesn't push too hard, like, bro, I'm mighty proud of you for tapping that, but you need to be way more assertive in this situation. This is serious stuff.
So, about your son, is there a chance I'm...
Later. For now, let's find him. When he's safe, we can talk about that.
As someone who's actually been in this situation, it was not fun to play, though didn't have as much latex. It had some, just not as much. So Black Cat is of course leading Spidey on. There's no kid, but my god, it gave me some serious PTSD. There's also a new side mission during this DLC about collecting art for a detective that Black Cat's father stole just before dying in prison. Now this is great because it slowly gets revealed that this detective was in fact her dad, leading Pete on. Seems to run in the family. Nothing much really happens though. You find all the art, he steals it, that's it. We don't hear from him at all. We don't even talk to Black Cat about it. So I feel like this was just added in after the main plot was written. So Hammerhead steals a bunch of Sable's weapons and actually becomes quite a force to be reckoned with. And after some more cat and mouse with Black Cat and some insane sexual tension,
Now can we talk like human beings?
This feels pretty human to me.
I know what's on those drives you're stealing.
Look at you, brawn and brains.
You can't give Hammerhead the last drive.
honestly, whenever Black Cat was on screen, I kept looking to my door hoping my partner didn't walk in. Took me back to being a teenager.
This needs to stop. Now.
But of course, she betrays us and stupidly walks into a trap that Pete was honestly screaming at her to avoid.
People can change, Felicia.
Love you, Spider. I'll miss you.
Wait, your penthouse, he's rigged it to explode!
Don't worry. I've still got all 9 lives left.
Felicia!
And that's the DLC. Black Cat is assumed dead, Hammerhead's got some insane weaponry, and the city's kind of going to hell again. It's pretty short, took me about an hour to complete, but it is nice to have actual reasons to why Black Cat was in the base game. So the second DLC is Turf Wars, and it continues straight after the heist, with Yuri raiding one of Hammerhead's bases. Now this guy is pretty stocked up at the moment, so it's quite the task. And it doesn't go very well for the officers she takes in, especially this guy who was given off "I'm gonna die" signs right at the start of the DLC.
You gentlemen ready?
Spidey, check it out.
Nice.
That's not regulation, Lieutenant.
Sorry, Captain. Birthday present from the kid. Not every day you run ops with the man, you know?
I'll let it slide. This time. Now get back on the ready line.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh man, you're so dead. Hammerhead takes out most of the officers and Yuri loses it. And after trying to console her and help her out with the investigation, Spider-Man runs up against a couple of walls, causing more harm than good. So Yuri decides to take things into her own hands. While this is going on, Hammerhead has captured all the other Maggia bosses in an attempt to wipe them all out and take full control of the crime organization. There's also a lot of references throughout the main plot, slowly talking about a Project Olympus, but that ends up just being a mech suit. Cool. I feel like these are in every video game now. Why was that being hinted at? Though it does make the fight a little bit more interesting, it's still kind of boring for a final fight in a DLC, but Spider-Man wins and Yuri decides to turn her body cam off and attempts to take Hammerhead's life for revenge for her fallen comrades.
This is bad.
Last time we met, you said something about fear. How do you feel now?
Just dandy.
Pete stops this and gives her the "I'm not mad, just disappointed" face. Now this DLC was even shorter than the heist, and the third one doesn't do much better. They are bite-sized for sure, but $15 for 3 pieces of story isn't too bad in my eyes. But most versions have this DLC included anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Silver Lining is the final piece of content, which has a pissed Silver Sable coming back to New York to re-require her gear to help arm the rebels in her country. I do like that they gave Sable more character development in this DLC, and a cause that honestly you really start to support. As in the base game, she was just an angry soldier, so it's good to have a bit more depth. Unfortunately, other than that, not much plot-wise happens. It becomes a chase for Hammerhead with Sable not trusting Spider-Man at the start and slowly becoming more and more subdued by his charm.
That was awesome! High five!
You said you could defeat Hammerhead.
You, know you left me hanging, right? Yeah, mostly about that metal plate in his head.
Carbon steel.
Super strong, pretty sensitive to heat.
I have an idea.
I, solemnly swear to, do whatever you tell me to.
I will call soon.
Ow. But, yeah.
Oh, and Black Cat randomly saves the day. Oh, cool, so you're not dead. I'm glad that plot point went somewhere. I feel like she was only included to tell Pete to aim for his head as that's his weak spot. And I mean, why did she need to tell Pete this? This guy is a scientist.
One more thing. His head, not as strong as you think it is.
Looking at Hammerhead currently, I think it's kind of obvious that his head is the weak spot. I'm not exactly going to be going for his shins. Oh, actually. We team up with Sable and take down Hammerhead, and that's it. It's a pretty fun team-up dynamic with Sable. It's fun to watch them progressively get more and more friendly, but we get our guns back and that's it. The after-credit scene for the DLC is Pete training Miles in the way of the spider, and I'm sure this will lead to a pretty excellent piece of DLC. Or if Sony decides to drop a new console years before it was ready to be dropped, maybe it'll make an entirely new Spider-Man game. And that's Marvel's Spider-Man, an excellent Spider-Man game that even on repeat playthroughs is worth the time sink. And though it's a remaster with some questionable changes, swinging around New York City has never felt so good. I love this game. And yes, if you couldn't tell 30 seconds into this video, I think it was truly that good and honestly cannot wait to dive into the quote-unquote sequel next for you guys. Having a title that truly gives us Spider-Man fans the experience we have wanted since 2004 is a breath of fresh air. And in a time where Rocksteady is dropping ball after ball with the Arkham IP, I'm just glad someone decided to revitalize this series and this hero. And though it's a little bit odd with all of Marvel's own failures over the last few years, you have to thank them for coming to Sony and pitching the idea, because thanks to them we got an amazing Spider-Man game. Not the Amazing Spider-Man game, but like an amazing Spider-Man game. You knew what I meant, right? I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As I mentioned in the community tab, I have been very sick the last few weeks, and 80% of writing this script, I was in a heavy fever state, so I hope that comes out well. And hopefully my voice doesn't sound too bad. I'm not quite 100% yet, but I really wanted to get this voiced out and made because I had so much fun playing the game. Next video, I want to stay in the spandex for a little bit longer and check out Miles Morales. So stay tuned for that video. But as always, the real superheroes of the channel need to be shouted out. And by that, I mean my patrons. Thank you. Pitstab, Chris Spicer, The Shane, 209, and Ali Tato. You guys are the pizza song to this channel's Spider-Man 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to jump straight into Miles Morales for the next one, so I'll see you in that. Don't forget to like this video and stay safe out there, guys. Ty out. Peace.